Welcome to the Cowboy Up Podcast. This is where talk is all about the West, the spirit of the West, and the people and personalities that make up the West. This is brought to you by White Stallion Ranch and Cowboy Spirit Radio Productions. Good morning, Russell. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Are you?
I'm good. Yeah, we're through Thanksgiving, and it was a really good one. And Thanksgiving is one of those weeks we get to see lots of people we know, and they probably know the ranch better than we do. At least from the front end of it, we know the back of the house. They probably know the front of the house better than we do.
Well, yeah, they know what they want it to be like, and that's the reason they come back is because they know that White Stallion and the True Family is going to deliver for them exactly what they're after, and that's kind of nice. And you talk to the people that are here, they all have big silly grins on their face because they know they're coming home. And this is what I hear from so many of them. They're just coming home, and you do that for them, and it's remarkable. Nice. It is remarkable.
We got big family here right now, and they reintroduced themselves to me last night, and they said, you remember us, of course. We were here 30 years ago.
Oh, that seems fair.
They were joking. And all of us have changed a little in 30 years. So they haven't been here in 30 years, brought their kids when they're young. Now they're bringing their kids who are not young with their kids. So it's how it works. We can't count on people coming every 30 years. So
it really doesn't do what you needed to do, does it?
I won't be here for the next one.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that.
There's a safe bet. So anyway, Mark Sankey's here, and he's with the Mescal Movie Set, and he'll give us the history, but it's an important, very important part of the movie making in southern Arizona, but Arizona in general, and it's great to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I appreciate you making the trek in because coming all the way from Mescal, it's not actually around the corner. It's a bit of a hike, but you made the effort, and I appreciate it.
Well, to tell you the truth, I live in West Tucson, so it wasn't that much of a hike.
Yeah. Well, you eventually going to need to go back to Mescal.
Yeah.
Well, there is that.
It's more of a trek to go down to Mescal for me than to come to the White
So
Stallion.
basically, you're coming here to play hooky. That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
Okay, good enough.
So, Mark, of course, I drive by the exit to Mescal all the time because we've got the ranch in Tombstone, so it's right on the way off of I-10, and so we'll we could get if we had a little more spare time, we'd dart in there every time because it's so much fun to see that great movie set. Tell us the history, how to get there, how to get preserved, and now it's being reinvigorated.
Renovated and fixed up, but the history of movie making in that area goes back over 70 years. Even before they built the buildings of the movie set, they used that land in Mescal and Happy Valley for notable movies with a few scenes from Big Country and Winchester 73 and Cimarron. In the late 60s then, for the movie Monty Walsh with Lee Marvin, they started building buildings. They started building them in 1969. Monty Walsh come out in 70, and at the close of that movie, Bob Shelton, who owned Old Tucson, recognized the value of that set as a second set for him, a satellite set. So he picked it up in 1970. And it worked out perfect because at Old Tucson, you have the classic look of the saguaros and the Golden Gate Mountain backdrop. And then you go 40, 50 minutes down the road, and you have the high prairie, and you got the cattle land. And so it gave him a great option to have the movies film on several locations. So from there on, for the next 30 years or so, you had a number of classic westerns filmed there. Anything from Outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood, Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean with Paul Newman, and probably the most recognized film with this generation is Tombstone, filmed there in '93. It came under hard times when all the states started coming out with film incentives and such, and Arizona wasn't as aggressive as other films, so there wasn't much work done there, there wasn't much filming done there, and it really got down to it just needed a lot of work. When Old Tucson closed down because of COVID, and has since reopened, Mescal, according to the lease, it's on state land on a film lease, it would have to be returned to its natural state, which means bulldozed down and
Ooh.
put back into the desert. Well, at the 11th hour, the Karchner family, Jake and J.J. Karchner, who are fifth-generation ranchers in the area, came in and bought it, just in one meeting. I mean, there was no business plan or anything like that. It's just like, you can't destroy this. This is a part of our community. This is a part of Arizona history, and they bought it. Not so much to get into the film industry. They didn't have stars in their eyes, but they just recognized the value it held for Western history and Western culture.
Who'd they buy it from? Who?
Basically from Diamond Ventures. Who
So
owned
Diamond
Tucson at the
Ventures
time.
still had it.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
still
what
in their name.
Yeah. Well, what they bought are the buildings in the lease.
Right. No, I got
The
it.
land is still state land.
Okay.
And so they opted. I mean, we don't have power.
What?
Power is about a mile and a half away. Last I looked, it was about $250,000 to bring it above ground, and we certainly don't want wires coming into our Western movie set. So we run everything off generators. All those historic movies are run off generators. We got well, we got water, we have internet service, and we've got good phone service, but we have no electric. So the most logical thing was not to turn it into an attraction or a theme park, even though we do have special events, but just to keep it a movie set and to renovate it and to try and bring back a lot of the Westerns and a lot of the movie making back into southern Arizona.
That's remarkable.
So Bob Shelton saw it, and it's interesting because, as you said, it's a very, the saguaros are great, right? Until you don't want them.
Right.
Because they're pretty iconic and they're pretty local.
We have one.
Do you?
Yeah, at the end of the street. I don't know how it got there.
Someone must have planted
It
it.
could have
I'm
been
surprised
planted
it's
there.
alive.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's funny when Tombstone the movie, which was filmed in part there, and I think they went through 3 directors. There was all kinds of turmoil, and ends up a classic movie. You just never know in life. And while they were in some of their turmoil, they came out here and scouted White Stallion to shoot some of the scenes for the movie Tombstone. And I mean, I just felt like I had to say it. I said to the scout, I said, "You realize there are no saguaros in the Tombstone area, right?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, we don't care." And I said, "Well, okay." So they didn't shoot here, and I'm kind of almost glad they didn't, because there aren't saguaros in Tombstone. But that Mescal is a totally different look, and it could be almost anywhere, right? I mean, it could be a lot of different places.
In Tom Horn with Steve McQueen, it was Montana. In Outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood, it was Texas. It could be Wyoming. It could be Arizona. It could be a lot of places.
And as you said, Arizona, which was a huge, I mean, just our range, 31 films.
Yeah.
200 television productions plus. Old Tucson, I forget their list. We just talked to them. It's huge. And so then Arizona falls off the radar because they're not given any incentives. But we finally got one.
Yes, we do.
And so you said how many productions you've done in the
last 5 weeks, we've actually had 6 productions. Now, most of them were smaller, all independent productions, and they ranged from 1 day on the set, maybe shooting the interior of the saloon, to 10 days on the set. And there were a couple days where we had actually 2 productions on set at the same time. One in town, shooting interiors, and the other out on a back lot, shooting vista scenes and scenic scenes.
And you do all this with no power. You run everything off of generators.
Everything off generators.
Very old school.
Very old school.
But really, movies are used to that. They're just totally used to it.
And with today's technology, with everything digital, they don't really need massive amounts of power. I mean, most of the time they can get a small generator, a couple small generators that are ultra quiet, and they can run their whole production.
Wow.
Because, the minute you go out on location, if you're not next to power,
yeah.
And as Mark said, you don't want the power lines.
Yeah.
So they're on generators a lot. So I imagine it's a limited disadvantage.
Yeah, they're used to working, like as you said. They're used to that.
I know Russell was really looking forward to this because he spent a fair amount of time in Mescal.
No, I mean I've been there. I mean you've got to. It's usually closed off unless you're.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of time going by, a lot of time knowing about it, because we've been sort of on the outside, but limited involvement in filming. So we know a lot about Mescal. And there was a time before Al Harper came in and rescued Old Tucson, and the Karchners came in and rescued Mescal. We were teetering on the edge of both those sets disappearing.
Oh, that would have been a severe blow. I mean, the
But
long
it could have
history
happened.
very, very close to it.
I mean, honestly, I'm sure if you went and asked Al Harper on some truth serum, was this a good investment? He might not say yes. And I'm sure the Karchners, as you said, they entered with no business plan. It was just, I was involved in Rito racetrack here for a long time, and the only reason is just to, keep our hands wrapped around some of the Southern Arizona history and heritage that is left, because a lot of it's disappeared as it does.
Absolutely. Well, and the truth is, you're not going to get rich owning a movie set.
No. And speaking about that, I mean, the financial contribution that Mescal makes and Old Tucson makes to Arizona has got to be tremendous. It's got to be a big deal.
Movies bring in an incredible amount of money. I mean, Arizona missed the boat with holding off on incentives so long, and it's just really opened the door for New Mexico. It's a $1 billion industry there now, and we've got a lot of work to do to recapture a lot of filming here. And I don't think most people realize how much money is spent as these productions come in. What we get renting a set is minuscule of their budget. I mean, it's a fraction of a percentage. But what they spend on anything from renting cars and restaurants and food and motels, and going to attractions when they have their off days and such. It's just an incredible amount of money that they can bring into our economy. And it's the type of money that really doesn't affect our groundwater per se or that type of thing. It's just, it's like extra money.
It's extra money. It's found money. And, one of the things I've liked about Mescal, because I've done a fair amount of reading about Mescal, and Russell's already referenced this, is it can be so many places. Russell's kind of hurt me when I watch some of these Western movies, and I'll see something from Texas, and they have the occasional saguaro in the background, and I go, wait a minute, Russell said that doesn't happen. So I've got to believe it's true, and that's a very real thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you even, you go to New Mexico, they don't have saguaros.
No.
And they have, the saguaro this and saguaro that, and it's in their logos. So saguaros, they're a pretty big deal. It's sort of surprising. So what do you think is what is Mescal's chances of getting some big productions? Because that's well, I'm going to back up that question. Is the absence of sound stages, because as you know, Old Tucson had the sound stage in Tucson area, and it went away. In the fire, burned, and was not replaced. Diamond Ventures chose not to replace it. How big of an impediment is the sound stage, the lack of a sound stage in southern Arizona?
I think it's very large. I think we need something like that. Not to, my focus is on Westerns, but there's a lot of other movies being made besides Westerns. Westerns can get by maybe without a soundstage to some extent, but if you really want modern films and that type of thing, you need to have that soundstage, and you need to have that flexibility, because you can do filming in the state, but if you want the pre and post production and all the revenue and that brings in, then the soundstage is essential. And if you can save those productions money and time by not going from state to state or location to location, it's just much more attractive.
How many do you think southern Arizona needs optimally?
I'd be happy to start with one.
Right.
But,
We really don't have one?
There isn't any.
Wow.
Lots of talk, right? I mean, Phoenix, Gila Bend, Tucson, this.
Yeah, they're talking about putting some major things in, but nobody's really broken ground yet.
Because it's big money.
We've worked with some people as far as showing the land down here. We've worked with some as far as if they build something large in Phoenix, why not a satellite facility down here and get a couple sound stages. I think if we just start with a couple, I mean, it would make a dramatic impact.
And Tucson is honestly so much better than Phoenix in terms of climate,
Yeah.
more year-round availability, more diversity of surroundings.
Well, and one of the advantages of bringing a soundstage here is if we can partner with Mexico and their film industry, because northern Mexico and the Sonora does not have a soundstage. They have to go all the way down to New Mexico or down to Mexico City. So looking at it not only just for southern Arizona, but being able to maybe go into Mexico and start networking.
How great that would be, because
Yeah.
that's importing business into. That would even be better, but we got to take a break, so we're going to stop right now.
If you're still looking for the perfect Christmas gift, Durango Boots has the boot for you. Durango is offering free 2-day shipping on all online orders from December 13th through December 18th. Head on over to durangoboots.com to find your perfect pair. Calling all cowgirls. This is Erin DeLong, Durango Boots Marketing Manager. Don't forget to apply for the National Day of the Cowgirl Scholarship. Our Durango Boots team is awarding a $30,000 scholarship to one U.S. or Canadian freshman female currently enrolled in a 4-year college program who is pursuing a Western-affiliated degree and embodies the spirit of the American cowgirl. Apply online today at nationaldayofthecowgirl.com. All applications must be submitted by December 31st, 2024.
Okay, now, Mark, I know Mescal is in cattle country, right?
Yes.
Okay. So why does that matter for people who want to make films?
Well, when you look at so many locations in southern Arizona, in Mescal and other locations, if you want to make an authentic Western, go to the location where the authentic West happened. I mean, when you think about when we're sitting in Mescal, we're half an hour drive from Tombstone and where they had the shootout at the OK Corral. You had Southern Pacific Railroad come into Benson. You had the Butterfield Stage go through the Benson area and such. You had cowboys and you had ranches and you had mines. All that happened right here in southern Arizona. And so, this is the authentic place to make a Western, and that's my pitch when I talk to movie productions.
Okay. Well, I mean, that does kind of make sense, because when you think the Old West, this is what you think.
This is the romantic Old West right here.
This is the romantic Old West. You're right. And I mean, I know we talk about cattle. Whenever you watch Yellowstone, I think every three or 4 minutes, literally, because I paid attention to it, they've got cattle in the scene.
Yeah. Well, when we're on set, the Karchners run cattle on the ranch that surrounds the set, and it's not uncommon to see them walking around. Or we've been filming, and all of a sudden 12 or 15 cows are curious and come up and kind of circle the crew. They're out of L.A. or New York. They're a little nervous and such, and we have to tell them they're not pets. Don't go up and pet them, but just slowly walk to them, maybe wave your hands, and they'll go away.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
So, Karchners, same family. I don't know any of them. I mean, you said 5th generation.
Yeah.
Their ranch is where Karchner Caverns is.
That was their grandfather.
Right.
Karchner
Really?
Caverns, and
Same
that's where they
family.
found the caverns. A lot of people assume that they own the caverns, but it was named after the family. It's a state park. So if our owners, Jake and JJ, go to the caverns, even though their last name's Karchner, they have to pay to get in, like everyone else.
But for people who don't know, it's such a great story. So a couple of cave explorers, what are they called? Spelunkers or whatever?
Spelunkers, yeah.
So they one of the stories is that caves tend to occur where there's large numbers of Ocotillo on the surface. So they had been searching out there pretty heavily, And they found this opening, and they found this spectacular, untouched, wet, live cave. And so they go back and forth, and other cave explorers are getting the hint there's something up, and so they have to actually act like CIA and hide their route and do this. But they went to the Karchners, and they said, we found something unbelievable, and we got to protect it. Keep people out of there until the state is able to go through their procedures to make it a state park and protect this, and because it's just so special. And so they did, and the Karchners are all part of that, and their name gets attached to this really, I guess, unmatched live cave.
It's you think they kept it a secret for 10 years.
10 years.
And as large as their family is, I know Jake has like 8 brothers and sisters, and his dad had 8 brothers and sisters. You'd think somebody would let it out of the bag, but they kept it quiet, and now it's turned into a major attraction here in Arizona.
I know at one time it was the only state park that made money, and it funded most of the other state parks. And that's somebody with state parks told me that. I don't know if I was supposed to repeat it. But, yeah, it's just such a great story. And if you haven't been there, you should go down to Karchner Caverns. It's north of Benson there. But so I was thinking, I read that the folks that really brought production business to New Mexico, Albuquerque particularly, they sold their infrastructure of sound stages to Netflix, and they had to get state approval because of the whole, incentive program, and they had to, Netflix had to guarantee the state $1 billion in productions a year for 10 years. Just them.
Wow.
In that.
Yeah.
And one of their last years, I was reading one of their sort of promotional pieces, and they did 90,000 room nights in hotels just through their provider services. It's unbelievable what the value of this movie industry production. It shouldn't be movie, but it's like everything now, right? TV, streamers, everything. Commercials are great. They spend money too.
Music videos.
Yeah, we just did one.
Did you? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, won a CMA. So
I would say
we're pretty.
She was on the halftime show on Thanksgiving Day. I don't know if you saw that or not. Lainey Wilson?
At what?
Oh, she was on the halftime show for the Dallas Cowboy football game.
Oh no, I missed that. And she posted a photo from the ranch on her. I don't do Facebook, as anybody who knows me knows, but. Somebody said, the ranch was on her Lainey's Facebook the other day, so she remembers us. So, so it all matters, right?
Absolutely.
And I think it's so important that stories, particularly when it's recognized that it's set in Arizona, people follow these things. So for someone like me who's in tourism, it's important. People come to see where Yellowstone was filmed, or of course Longmire was filmed in New Mexico most of the time.
Yeah.
So they had to go to New Mexico to see Longmire. But it has a huge impact beyond just the dollars and cents direct. It has all this spillover. The movie.
People like to walk in the footsteps of their favorite actors and such.
Well, speaking about that, you've got like the Trading Post there at Mescal. Just the Trading Post has hosted Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and Tombstone in just that one building. That's pretty remarkable.
Well, and there's more than that, but you can only list so much.
You can only list so much, right?
But every building there has a history, and as we do our film tours, we basically walk up and down one side of the street and then the other, and we just talk about some of the famous scenes, famous movies, and famous actors that were in that particular building. But every building has a history there.
Now, if somebody wanted, is that a video that you guys have made, or?
No, we do tours.
Okay.
We have historians. And we do tours in between filming on the weekends, usually Friday and Saturday. And we try to keep them somewhat small, 12 to no more than 15 people per tour, so it can be interactive. And they take about an hour, 75 minutes, and they get to walk the set, and they get to go into the buildings that are safe. We haven't fixed them all yet. And it's been real popular, and it's a way of us being able to interact with the community and let people know we're there and such, because for so many years, Mescal, being a satellite set, wasn't open to the public.
And it is now,
to
an extent.
Yeah, check the website. I always tell everybody, don't be a Griswold like on vacations and show up at the gate. I tell
That's
people
a great
sometimes
reference.
I get the phone calls, well, I'm at the gate and it's locked. And it says, well, you're a Griswold,
You're a Griswold.
Yeah, so don't punch me. I'm not a moose.
There you go.
So, what's the website?
It's mescalmovieset.com.
Mescalmovieset.com. And that's where they're going to find out if there's going to be a tour available.
Yeah, we have a schedule up.
Yeah.
We post usually 30 to 60 days in advance.
Right.
We can't go any further than that because we're negotiating with films.
Sure.
And surprisingly, they don't plan well.
It's shocking,
it's a last-minute
actually.
thing many times.
It's a shocker. We we did 11 scenes for George Clooney's Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and they booked that, less than 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
It was the first contact. You'd think, but anyway, you would think they would be way out ahead. Quick and the Dead, huge stars.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Gene Hackman, Sharon Stone, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
I mean, mega cast. They filmed almost that whole thing there, didn't they?
Yeah, the opening scene is out in Sonoita. And you see that little famous mountain range. I think it's famous because I've seen it in so many films with the biscuit.
Right, the biscuit.
And that's the opening scene with Sharon Stone. But 90% of that movie was shot right in Mescal. What's interesting is that was right after Tombstone.
Right.
And so Tombstone built Mescal to look like a new town, because in 1880 Tombstone was a new town. So they came in, put a lot of money in fixing it up, and then when Quick and the Dead came, they wanted it to look run down and beat up, and they totally repainted and put a whole different image on it.
To me personally, for instance, the George Clooney movie, they wanted it's gone now. We had a rustic Ramada set up at our desert site, and they wanted it to look like an outdoor Mexican cantina. And so I take them out. I come back 3 hours later. I didn't even recognize it. It was those. It's a skill set.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable. They can age things, make things look new. We did a French McDonald's commercial one time, and they have some goofy character that's there, Ronald McDonald, and he's farm or somebody. And so they had rubber horseshoes that he could bend with his hands. Where do you get those? I don't. You go to the rubber horseshoe factory.
There's a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. And I guess you said you had a 10-day production, and you get commercials in there from time to time too, don't you?
We haven't had too much success with that market.
Okay.
We've done a few music videos. We do primarily what we've had come in is movies. A lot of times shorts. Sometimes they'll make like a sizzle reel or a short to take to film festivals to try and sell their project. So we've done a lot of those. The INSP network, which shows westerns 24/7, they've come in and done a couple movies.
Okay.
And they've been great productions with some recognizable actors and such. So we do have a lot of pending films. I tell people we have over 30 films we're talking to, and it sounds like a massive number and such, but you got to realize a lot of those films may never be made.
Sure.
Some of them don't have their funding yet, but the pipeline is filling up. But we definitely, we want to start getting the larger films, and we want to start getting more commercials and more music videos and that type of thing.
And how do you market that? I mean, for goodness
that's
sake,
what I was thinking.
Okay, good. Now that's difficult, isn't it?
Well, I learned that in a hurry. I've been in marketing my whole life and kind of stumbled into this, and it was like, well, holy cow! I mean, what do you do?
Yeah.
So, you basically start with location scouts. And this is a word of mouth industry.
Yeah.
And so basically you're always networking, you're always reaching out, you're always touching base, making phone calls, meeting new people. Every time there's a production on set, near the end, you sit down with them and give me 3 things we can do better or make changes here. And, who are you comfortable with me contacting? Who can you refer me to? So it's really just a matter of getting out there and not being shy.
Asking the right question of the right people.
And getting the pictures and getting your information to the scouts and producers.
Excellent.
How many location scouts are local?
Not a whole lot. I mean, there's probably of 6 or 8 in Arizona that maybe do this part-time or full-time. There's quite a few in New Mexico, of course.
Because when I was a kid, there were 2 and sort of a third. And
Yeah.
They kind of and back then there was a lot more production, so they were kind of busy.
Yeah.
But if they didn't know you, then you weren't known.
Right.
They were pretty much the gatekeepers. So still working on fixing buildings, you said. Any plans to expand? Is that within the lease? If somebody came in and said, we need 2 more buildings to do, you can do that.
Yeah, we're open to that. I mean, the nice thing is being that these are props. Nobody's living in them and that type of thing. We don't have to deal with codes and such. Safety is a major concern and such. But so we still have a lot of renovation to do. We still have a number of buildings that need some foundation work. We still have a few leaky roofs and such. But the plan is to expand it into like 3 roads and with alleys in between so that there's more shots, there's more depth, there's more variables that they can use and film on. So when you have a movie set like that, you're never done. People sometimes, well, are you about halfway done yet or something? Well, we don't look at it that way because, the reality is some of those buildings are so old by the time it's like painting a Golden Gate Bridge. By the time you're done and move down the street, you got to go back and to fix this and
start
fix
over.
that. And the next production may come in and say, well, we want to put a different porch on or we want to paint it a different color or something like that. So everything is flexible.
Right, new versus old,
Right.
like Tombstone and Quick and the Dead. There's
Exactly.
an example. Spruce it up, age it out.
Yeah.
And so again, mescalmovieset.com.
Yep, mescalmovieset.com.
Fridays and Saturdays,
In between filming.
if there's no production, up to 15 people. Also, your program, you got the little card set here.
Yeah, one of the things we did, I mean, we love to get Kurt Russell or Sam Elliott or Tom Selleck back on set, but we don't have deep enough pockets, and they probably have other things that they're doing. So we're thinking about it, and we thought about, well, there's a lot of people in the Tucson and Southern Arizona era that worked on those classic films that were filmed in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and we were able to reach out to a number of them, and we started a program called the Mescal Legends. And so the first time we had a Meet the Legends Day, we're all excited about it, and the tour comes in, and all these legends are standing in the saloon, and the guests come in, and there's like a lull, and you can hear the birds chirping because nobody wanted to make the first move to go up and talk to them and such. So
I love it.
Put your thinking cap on, and as a kid I collected baseball cards, and you always wanted the athlete to sign the card. So we made up legend cards, and we've got a classic picture of the local Mescal legend, maybe with a famous actor and such. And on the back we list maybe 8 of the movies that they filmed in the area, and then they have a big stack of those. So whenever they're on set, people want that legend card. So now they're more apt to go up to the legend and sign autographs, and they all have great little stories about different scenes they were in Tombstone and such, and a lot of them are amusing behind the scene type stories, and it's been real successful.
And it gives them a chance to be in the spotlight all by themselves.
They love coming back and people showing them how much they appreciated, and I saw you in that movie, or that type of thing.
Absolutely.
I remember that scene. That was you.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I like telling people about the Lainey Wilson video that was shot here, I said, well, you see the guy in the white hat? I said, yeah, I know that guy. I mean, that's a pretty proud moment, I won't lie.
Well, that's cool. So when it's happening, the Mescal Legends, they're accessible to the guests.
Yeah, we have some that they're invited to come out whenever they want.
Right.
And we have some almost every tour day. We maybe have one or two of them out there.
Our friend Bunker de France.
Bunker de France. He doesn't out quite as often because he has his podcast on Saturdays that he does here at the White Stallion.
Yeah.
We have other. Lynn Steele is out there almost every tour. Emily Blanton, who was in Tombstone and a lot of different movies, she comes out quite frequently. And then there are days that we have Meet the Legends or the Return of the Legends, and we might get 7, 8 of them out there.
Super.
And,
fantastic. It really is.
And they have great stories because they're back behind the scenes with these actors and actresses.
They've had lunch with them and drank beers with them and
seen the good and the bad.
Yeah, we tell them don't tell any bad stories.
Yeah.
Keep everything positive.
Yeah.
Don't tell them which actor was a jerk.
And when they're showing up in the proper attire, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah, they dress up and all the staff out there. We're all volunteers. There's no paid staff on set. All the money that comes in goes back to renovating the set and such. But we all dress up in period correct or close to period correct.
Fantastic.
Outfits.
mescalmovieset.com. Thank you so much. Anything else to tell us, Mike?
Well, glad to be here. I enjoyed this, and we hope to see everybody on set.
Well, I appreciate you making the 5 or 6 minute drive in here.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate you coming in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap, folks, and we thank you for being a part of the Cowboy Up podcast. You are an important part. In fact, you are the reason we are here. We love to tell our stories, show you some ways that life could be a little bit better if we learn about some of those old Western traditions, that little bit of a cowboy code. And that's what we're about, and we thank you for being a part of that. Perhaps you've got a word of wisdom for us or a recommendation. We'd love to hear from you. Just write to us at thecowboyuppodcast@gmail.com, thecowboyuppodcast@gmail.com. My name is Stan. I'm the radio man. I'm one of the leaders of what we call the Cowboy Spirit Radio Network. And in these transforming but challenging times, we're trying to help people like you perhaps be a part of that. So maybe you have a guest you'd like to recommend. Perhaps there's somebody you know like you who has something you'd like to share. We'd love to have you raise your hand and do a little bit of an audition for being on the program. It might be your year to be on the radio. So we look forward to that. Again, the Cowboy Spirit Radio Network. The Cowboy Spirit Radio Network. My name is Stan. StanHouston@gmail.com. StanHouston@gmail.com. Again, remember, the Cowboy Up podcast comes to you from the White Stallion Ranch, an historic place right in Tucson, Arizona, where it's a little bit warmer than most places you're at right now. Maybe you ought to come down sometime, and we'd love to see you. Maybe you could even be on the program. Well, we're going to go out with the Cowboy Code. Remember that expression that we use a lot when we talk about the Western way of life? Riding for the brand, and our guest for the month, Greg Hager, will take us out with a little song and story about doing just that. In this day and age, it's important that we learn how to ride for the brand.
It's out with the old, in with the new. It's a crazy world, what's a cowboy to do? Try to make sense, but you don't understand what it means these days to ride for the brand. Things keep a-changing with all we've been through, and we're so far apart in our points of view. What happened to heroes in taking a stand? And what does it mean to ride for the brand? When you ride for the brand, you're true to your word. rounding up strays, protecting the herd. When trouble comes calling, you lend a hand. 'Cause that's what you do when you ride for the brand. We got miscommunication, one big disconnect. 'Cause no one wants to listen, show some respect. But news is mostly gossip, who can you believe? Too many politicians with trouble up their sleeve. People posting things they wouldn't say to your face. What happened to good manners? It's a disgrace. Everybody's talking, nobody understands just what it means to ride for the brand. When you ride for the brand, you're true to your word, rounding up strays, protecting the herd. When trouble comes calling, you lend a hand. 'Cause that's what you do when you ride for the brand. There's some who might say I'm just an old fool. I like to think what I am is old school. You learn some good lessons out riding the range. And one thing I've learned is times always change. When I was young, it sure made me mad for old folks to say my generation was bad. Now as I come to the end of my dance, I think maybe we need to give these young folks a chance. This world's no longer mine, it belongs to you. But if I could share some wisdom, here's what I hope you'll do. Don't ignore your history, it helps to understand exactly what it means to ride for the brand. When you ride for the brand, you're true to your word, rounding up strays, protecting the herd. When trouble comes calling, you lend a hand. 'Cause that's what you do